like to show you a possible menu that you could have with your murder mystery. And it's based on recipes from the 1920s and the 1930s. So you could start with deviled eggs, go on to chicken a la king, and finish with pineapple upside down pudding. So what I'm going to start with now is to show you the decoration for the top of the chicken a la king. I'll give you a recipe for it separately. I'll show you how to do the deviled eggs, and I'll show you how to make the pineapple upside down pudding. So this is just a little pastry puff that you can have on the top of your a la king, and serve it with some rice as well. And it's very easy. So I've got some just roll pastry. It's puff pastry, and I have it in the fridge. And I'm just going to cut it into triangles, bake it in the oven, and then they can be set on top of your chicken a la king as a nice decoration. Now, we don't really need to use all of this, depending how many people you're feeding, how many people are in your house, because obviously we're not allowed out. So I'm going to just do enough for 2, multiply it up as you require. I'm going to keep the rest of this pastry because I can make something else with it, maybe some homemade sausage rolls. So I'm just cutting a nice rectangle of the pastry. Put the rest away and I can use it again another time. So I would like to cut this into a square and then into triangles. So you've got 4 triangles. Then I'm taking an egg and I'm just going to beat it up, and I'm going to brush each of the pastry triangles with a little bit of egg wash, and that will make sure that they're lovely and golden and shiny for you to serve on top of your chicken a la king. These can be done anytime, they can be done in advance, and you can keep them in an airtight container, and they can be used again for something else. So we're going to have 4 of them. You can either use them all, or you can, as I say, keep some, because they're lovely on top of beef stews and things as well. So I'm just putting the egg wash all over them, and then I'm going to place the triangles onto a floured baking sheet. The flour helps to prevent the pastry from sticking. And this needs to go into a really hot oven, about 200 to 220, for about 15 minutes till they're puffed up and lovely and golden. So I'll show you them when they're baked. Right, the chicken a la king recipe. These are the ingredients that you're going to need. This is for 2 people. 1 leek sliced, 2 chicken breasts sliced, a red pepper sliced, a handful of frozen peas, and a little bit of parsley if you have it. You're going to need 1 tablespoon of plain flour, a teaspoon of paprika, and some salt and pepper for flavour. You need a little bit of olive oil to fry your chicken and your ingredients in. I've got a splash of white wine. I have about 200 mils of a good chicken stock or vegetable stock. Make that up and have that ready. And then I have about 100 mils of cream. And if you don't have cream, you can use milk, but you might need to boil your sauce down a little bit to reduce, because it'll be a bit thinner. But the cream, if you have it. So these are the ingredients you have to have, and I'm going to bring you over now to the stove and we'll cook this together. Okay, so we're going to start and make our chicken a la king. So the first thing we need to do is put a splash of oil into our pan, and we're going to cook off the vegetables first. So I'm going to put into my pan the leeks. Oops, there we go. And the peppers to begin with. The peas don't need as much cooking, so they can be added to the mixture later on. And just let them saute over a medium heat until they're soft and golden. The chicken a la king, you don't want too much colour on everything because it's going to be in a white sauce, and so we just want to be careful not to burn, and we don't want anything to catch on the bottom of your pot. So just keep the vegetables moving and let them sit and soften. After that, we're going to put them all into a dish, and then we'll do the chicken separately. So let's see how these are going. Always takes a minute for the pan to heat up. Lovely. Okay. So with the chicken, I've just sliced it thinly, as you can see, just into nice thin slices. Won't take very long to cook at all. So this can be made while you're making, while your pineapple upside down pudding is in the oven. So you can be doing two things at once. That'll mean you'll have it all ready at the same time. So let them fry for about 5 minutes. Okay, so we just give those a little stir and be careful that they don't catch and start to burn. So just turn that heat down a little bit. And while they're cooking, we'll have a look at the puff pastry which I've just taken out of the oven. So you can see the little triangles, they've got a lovely golden topping to them. They're nicely risen and they'll just sit on top of your chicken a la king later on. And I'm just going to serve with the chicken a la king one of the microwave packets of basmati rice, and they're so easy, 2 minutes and they'll be ready. So that's all good. Okay, these are beginning to come nicely. It's beginning to just soften. Don't want any colour, so you can see there isn't really any colour on them as such. They're just softening. Okay, so I'm going to take those out. Put them in the dish here, and then I want to do the chicken separately. There we go. Get the last of the little bits and pieces out. Okay. So we just need another little splash of oil, not too much because you don't want it to be too greasy. And then we're just going to fry off the chicken pieces in the pan. Just turn it down a wee bit if it's sizzling, so let that just, I'll wash my hands here for handling raw meat, just make sure your hands are clean, and let that just sit for a wee minute or two until it starts to cook, and then we can turn the pieces over. Starting to smell lovely. Lovely, that looks like it's nearly ready for a wee turnover. Oh, just catching a little bit. This isn't a non-stick pan, but if you have a non-stick pan it's easier. So when you're doing these things you realise how old and tired your cooking pots are. I wasn't able to rush out and buy myself a nice new Le Creuset, which I would love, but no chance. This is a well-loved one that I got years ago on holidays in France. It just served me well. So just let those sit and get a wee bit more cooked through. You don't need to worry about them cooking through at this point because you're going to add them to the sauce and they're going to cook a little bit further. You're just wanting to seal the chicken pieces. Let's turn that up a little bit more. So then the next bit is really, once this is cooked, we're going to make the white sauce. And it's a white sauce with a little bit of wine and stock in it, so slightly different from a normal white cheese sauce that you maybe make to go with pasta. But it's lovely and delicious and quite decadent. It's got a splash of wine, it's got some cream, so it really is. So you see the way that that's all kind of turned white and it's all sealed. I'm going to take that out now and pop that over with the vegetables. And we'll cook that further in the sauce in a minute or two. So keeping the heat on underneath the pan, we're going to add about a tablespoon of butter to our pan and let that melt. And we're going to make what we call a roux, which is where we make a mixture of butter and flour together, and that's what thickens your sauce. So we're melting down our butter, and just keep the heat quite low at this moment in time, and you can bring it up later on. So there are, the butter's all melted. So to this, I'm going to add the flour. And as I said to you earlier, there's flour about a tablespoon, same quantity as of butter to flour. I've got a little bit of paprika and a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm just going to add the whole lot to my pan. Okay, deciding not to come away. There we are. Immediately I can smell the paprika, and you want that to be rubbed, beat that into the butter. And you can see it doesn't look very attractive at this stage. It's like little blobby kind of, I don't know. You can see that it's just a bit not terribly appetizing. Let that cook for a minute or two in the heat, and then we're going to gradually add some liquid to that. And I'm going to change over to a whisk to try and prevent any lumps appearing in my white sauce. So the first thing I'm going to add is a splash of white wine. And stir, and you can see how that's starting to sizzle up. So I'll get the rest of that wine in there and let that cook and try and get into all the edges and get all that mixed in with the flour. The paprika has coloured your sauce a little bit, but by the time we add stock and we add cream, it'll pale down again. So now I've got my vegetable stock, or my chicken stock, depending which you have. And gradually I'm going to add a little bit of stock to it. Again, keep stirring, making sure that the flour is incorporating into the liquid nicely. Let it cook through for a wee bit. That's it, and add a wee bit more. So just be gradual. There we are. Lovely, coming together nicely. See how glossy it's going to be. And hopefully no lumps in it. There we are, just add a wee bit more. Bring the heat up a little bit. So you're adding about 250 mils of stock and a wee splash of white wine, and then we'll add milk to it, or cream to it at the end. So that's the last of the stock being added to it. Okay, and now to that I'm just going to add all the ingredients back in again. So that's your chicken, your leeks and your peppers, all added in again, and just stir them through, coat it all. I'm going to add in the frozen peas as well. And we're going to let that cook down for about 15 minutes or so. So I'm going to put the lid on that and just let it cook over a low heat for about 15 minutes, and then we'll add the cream at the very end. Right, I'm going to show you how to devil an egg. In case you didn't know, this is how you devil an egg. So I've got 2 hard-boiled eggs, and you just want to split them in half and take the yolk out. I remember doing these for my 21st birthday. I don't think anybody appreciated it, and I nearly fell out with my to-be husband because I spent most of a Saturday afternoon deviling eggs, such a 70s thing, also a 1920s. So deviled eggs was very popular, and what it is really is a little bit of mayonnaise and a little bit of curry powder is added to the egg yolk. So I'm going to just put a squirt of mayonnaise in and a little shake of curry powder. And then I'm just going to take a fork, or if you've got a potato masher, that's great. But I think for the sake of 2 egg yolks, a fork would be easier. And just mash the yolk and the mayonnaise and the curry powder together till it's quite smooth, because then they piped it into the egg halves. Now, you don't need to pipe them, you can just spoon them in. But as I have plenty of piping bags and lots of nozzles, I'm going to try to pipe this mixture back into the egg. Wonderful, wonderful. So there we are. So you've got like an egg paste. That's your egg yolk, your mayonnaise and your curry powder. And I'm going to put it into this piping bag with a little nozzle in the end. And to be honest, I think I would boil a few more eggs and have them to give you more yolk, even if you don't use the white aspect of it, because it's not going to be a lot of egg yolk mix here. So we'll see how many we can get piped. So let's see. So let's take our egg yolk and just squeeze a little bit of the mixture into the egg yolk. And we'll do the same with this one. There we go. And then with a little bit of parsley on a plate, or a little bit of salad would be quite nice, but you could do a couple each. For your starter, it's pretty much like egg mayonnaise, but there are your deviled eggs, and maybe you could sprinkle a little bit of curry powder on the top. If I could get any more curry powder out. A little bit of curry powder on the top. Actually quite delicious. So, idea for your starter, deviled eggs. And then we'll see how the chicken a la king is going. Right, that's been about 15 minutes. As you can see, the chicken and everything has all now cooked down a little bit. And now we're just ready to add in the cream. So just add in about 50 to 60 mils of cream, and gently, on a very low heat, just stir in the cream. And you can see it goes a lovely pale golden colour. There we go, that looks lovely. So I've cooked the microwave rice and we've got our puff pastry. So once that cream is cooked through, you don't want to bring it to the boil because the cream will split. So just warm it through on a low heat, and you can see how lovely and glossy that is. The chicken is cooked through and the vegetables are nice and soft. So I'm going to serve it now. So I have the microwave rice cooked and ready to serve up, and then we're just going to, oh, messy, serve the chicken a la king into the centre. Oh gosh, that looks so good. I cannot wait to try some. And because we're going to be professional, we're going to tidy up the edge of our plate so we don't have any drips on it. So let's do that. I'm going to place the pastry on the top of it, and then I'm going to sprinkle just with a little bit of finely chopped parsley. And there you have chicken a la king. Right, the dessert that you're going to do for your murder mystery is a pineapple upside down cake. And these were very popular in the 1920s, 1930s, which surprised me actually, because I remember them vividly in the 1970s, and they are just delicious with custard or cream. Now the idea is that you make a caramel, and you have your pineapple at the bottom of your tin. You put your sponge mixture over the top, you bake it in the oven, and then you turn the whole thing upside down so that you can see the lovely pineapple rings on top. So first of all, you need to think about what you're going to bake your pudding in. Ideally, if you have a loose bottom tin, it is much easier to deal with. So that's one of these tins with the lock and all on the side. And for this recipe, you'll need a 7-inch or 19-centimetre round tin. Alternatively, if you don't have a tin, you can use a Pyrex dish. And what I would recommend is that you put a little bit of greaseproof paper at the bottom of your dish before you do the recipe that I'm going to show you, so that whenever you turn it upside down, the contents will come out easily and you'll be able to peel the greaseproof paper off and get that lovely pineapple effect on the top of your dessert. So the first thing we need to do is make the caramel for the base of the pudding. So I've got 50 grams of brown sugar and 50 grams of butter, and I'm just going to melt that butter now in the microwave. And while that's melting, I'm just going to show you the rest of the ingredients. So I have a tin of pineapple rings, which I'm just draining thoroughly before we use them in the pudding, because you don't want a lot of juice in the dessert, because that'll make the sponge quite soggy. So that's been draining, ready for use whenever we're ready to put them on the base. Also for the sponge, I've got 200 grams of self-raising flour. I've got 100 grams of butter, 100 grams of caster sugar, 2 eggs and some lemon rind, and I've got 4 to 5 tablespoons of milk, but you don't need to use all of that. We'll see what that looks like whenever we're making it. And I just have my mixer ready to use. So I can hear the butter sizzling in the microwave, so I'm going to get it out before it makes a terrible mess of my microwave. I'm just going to mix it in with the brown sugar. So this is making you like a caramel. So mix that all in. So you can see that's just mixing with the sugar. And then you're just going to pour that into the base of your tin, or whatever container you're going to bake your dessert in, and spread that all around the bottom. So if you can imagine, that brown sugar, once it's cooking, will really caramelize in with the butter, and you're going to set your pineapple in, and that'll give you that lovely golden crispy loveliness on top. So just then, into your tin, we're going to take the pineapple rings that I've drained, and I'm just going to place them in as artistically as I can into my tin. So go around the outside first, so I can get 4 full circles in there. And then I'm going to cut up a few wee bits of the pineapple and fill in the gaps, so that we have as much pineapple at the base as we can possibly manage. So there we are. Now, some recipes, the 1970s recipes, would have put a cherry in the middle of each of the rings, but I'm not dying about that, so I'm not going to bother. So if you can see, the pineapple is placed into the base as prettily as possible. There's butter and sugar there, and it looks absolutely delicious. Now, the only problem with a sprung tin is you get a bit of butter coming out the edge, so let's just put that on a plate, tidy up the work surface, and get the sponge made as quickly as possible. So there we go. So the sponge. So into my mixer, I'm going to put my, let me see what quantity, 4 ounces of butter and my 4 ounces of sugar, and I'm going to beat them up until they're nice and light and fluffy. You want your sponge to be as light as fluffy as you can manage. So we'll pop the beater on and just talk amongst yourselves, because it's going to be noisy. There we go. I've got my self-raising flour, and I've got my 2 eggs, and I've just taken the zest of 1 lemon. This is, the zester that I have makes long strips, which I love going through a sponge, but you can use a grater and just get the zest from the grater, and just adds a lovely flavour to your mixture. So just getting this butter and sugar combined nicely, and as it beats up, it gets much paler and lots of air gets into the butter and sugar mixture, so it allows for your sponge to rise and be really, really tasty. So in the meantime, put your oven on to 190 degrees centigrade. That's gas mark 6. So you're going to cook it at that for about half an hour, then reduce the temperature down to 180 and cook that for another half hour until it's well risen and golden in colour. So I'm just going to scrape down my blender, or my mixer, because the mixing bowl, so you can see the mixture around the outside. It's got quite pale, but it does tend to stick to the edges, and you just need to bring it all back into the centre again and give it another wee beat. Just probably for another minute or so. Looking good. Oops, sorry. that should do it. And you can see now, I'll show you, it's lovely and pale and fluffy. So you can see the colour is lovely and white. So into that then we're going to break in our 2 eggs and add our flour. Now this has got a lot more flour in it than you would have in a Victoria sponge in ratio to your fat and sugar. So that's why you need to add a little bit of milk as well. So let's break in the 2 eggs. That's your second egg in. We're going to add the flour. Don't add the lemon zest at this moment in time. I find it gets stuck around my beater and then you end up having to scrape it all off. So just leave it and it can be stirred in afterwards. So let's put it back into the mixer. Turn the mixer on slowly so the flour doesn't fly around your kitchen. You can do this by hand if you want to with a wooden spoon. If you don't have a mixer, it just takes a little bit longer and you need to have your butter nice and soft if you're going to do it by hand. But the mixer's so easy, so let's just makes it so much quicker. So make sure that it all combines. And I'll just show you what it's like. So at this stage it's more like a dough, and that's why we need to add in the milk to make it slightly softer and more like a sponge consistency. So let's just beat that up again slowly. And then just gradually add the milk. Now it says 4 to 5 tablespoons in the recipe, so just add a little bit at a time. Let it all mix in, and then the consistency you can see will start to soften. You don't want it too sloppy because it has to hold the pineapple. And let's just add a little bit more in. So I've got about 3 in at this point. And just add another little bit. So you want it more like a dropping consistency, and I'll show you what that means now in a minute. So there's a little bit more milk in there. I'm just going to clean down the sides of the bowl to make sure I get it all the mixture in. But as you can see, the recipe is, you know, the dough is now becoming sort of more of a dropping consistency. So that's more what you want it to be. So I'm not going to add any more milk to it. I'm just cleaning down the edges of my bowl, and then I'm just going to give the mixture a really good beat for about a minute. The mixer gets up to speed. And again, it should look lighter and brighter whenever you're finished beating it. Right, I think that's enough. Now I'm just going to turn you around again so that you can see the tin that I'm going to add the mixture to. So don't forget, we've still got to add the lemon zest to our mixture, or the lemon rind. So I've cleaned it down, it's lovely and light and fluffy, it's got a nice dropping consistency. So I'm just going to add in all the lemon zest, and that'll give it a lovely flavour. Just fold that in. Don't beat it too much because you don't want to lose all that air that you've spent ages getting into your mixture. And then we're just going to spoon it on top of our pineapple. So just put little dollops of mixture into the tin at different sections, and then you can use a knife to spread it over and smooth it out. There we go. Now I'm just going to spread it all out to the edges of the tin. Don't go too heavy-handed because you can see the butter from the base coming up the edges. That'll all soak in when you're cooking it in the oven. And that is you. And that's your mixture in your tin. So I'm just going to put it onto a baking tray so that if anything drips from it, any of the syrup or anything drips through, it's not going to make your oven a nightmare to clean later. And as I said earlier, it goes into the oven first at 190 for 30 minutes. And then you turn your oven down to 180 and you give it another 35, maybe 40 minutes until you're happy that it's cooked. It should be a lovely golden brown colour. And just, if you're not sure whether it's cooked, place the skewer into the middle, pull it out, and if it's clean, it's cooked. If you find that the mixture's getting a little bit too golden for your liking, then get a little bit of tin foil, put the tin foil over the top and put it back in the oven. That'll stop the sponge darkening anymore, but will continue to cook it so that it's really cooked right through and that lovely caramel develops at the bottom. So I'm going to put it in the oven and I'll get back to you later. Right, my pineapple pudding has been in the oven for about an hour and 5 minutes or so. It's golden, probably a little too golden. And it is well risen and cooked right through. So once you've let it cool for about 5 to 10 minutes so that the tin is manageable in your hands, we want to just go around the edges of the dessert with a knife and just loosen it from the edges of the tin. And this is where the fun starts, the tricky bit. Make sure it's not stuck to the baking tray. Then get a plate that is big enough to go right across the whole of the tin. Put it over the top and take, oh my goodness, here we go. Take it and turn it upside down. And this is where you need to say a prayer because you want the pineapple to have come out and not have stuck to the bottom of your cake. So I'm going to loosen my tin. Just tap around it. And there's the first bit done. And fingers crossed. Oh my goodness, I'm so nervous. We're going to take it off. And nearly all of it has stayed where it's meant to be. There's just a couple of wee pineapple bits. So I'm just going to put them back in place. So don't worry about that. Put them back in place. And look how golden and sticky and yummy that is. And it smells absolutely amazing. And because we're going to try and be very professional, we're going to clean round the edge of your plate. And that is your dessert, a pineapple upside down cake. Serve it warm if you like with custard and cream, or you can serve it cold, whichever you prefer. And I hope you enjoy that. So let me bring together all the ingredients of our menu. We're going to start with deviled eggs. We're going to go on to chicken a la king with a pastry crouton. And then we're going to have some pineapple upside down. I hope you enjoy these recipes and I hope you enjoy your murder mystery and that you enjoy your meal together. So have a fun night. Thank you.